So this topic is the musculoskeletal system, and we've spoken about the skeletal part when we talked about bones and cartilage and tendons and joints and ligaments. What we're going to talk about in this video are the different muscle types there are. With the muscles, we have in our body maybe 650 muscles, hard to count them, in the body, and we have an estimate of half of our body mass is muscle. Okay, so it's a big important tissue, and what muscles do is they will contract and relax, and they contract and relax to bring about movement. So another way to think about it is that we are taking chemical energy from the molecule ATP, which we've talked about lots, and converting it to movement. And what we're going to do in this video is we are going to talk about the structure and a little bit about the function of the three types of muscle. So we're going to talk about smooth muscle, we are going to talk about cardiac muscle, and we are going to finally talk about skeletal muscle. Smooth muscle, what we've got, we have a cartoon image of the smooth muscle and an image taken by light microscope in the corner over here. And smooth muscle is the kind of the least specialized muscle when compared to cardiac and skeletal muscle. It contracts and it's an involuntary muscle. So we do not have conscious control of the smooth muscle in our body. And smooth muscle is responsible for slow, involuntary movement in parts of our body, such as the blood vessels. So remember we talked about the walls of the arteries having muscle in them, the veins having muscle in them. It's smooth muscle. In the digestive system, so you've got layers of smooth muscle in the stomach to do the mechanical digestion, and also you've got peristalsis through the digestive tract, and that's the smooth muscle. The bladder, that the muscle stretches when you fill up with urine. Uterus during childbirth, that is the contraction of smooth muscle to push the baby out of the mother. Smooth muscle is non-striated. We'll see striations with skeletal and cardiac muscle, but there are no lines and organized protein filaments, which we'll talk about with the other muscle types. So as part of this non-striatedness, which is not a word, we've got no regular arrangement of the proteins, and we have lots of different cells contracting in different directions, which is different to what we will see in the other muscle types. And smooth muscle cells, they contract slowly, and they remain contracted for longer. Contract slowly, but contract for longer than the other types. So that's smooth muscle. With cardiac muscle, we've again got a cartoon and a picture taken by a light microscope. Cardiac muscle is in the walls of the heart, and we talked about it lots in semester 1, so we'll just recap this here. Again, it's involuntary, so you don't have to think about your heart contracting, which is good. Remember, we used that word myogenic. So as long as the cardiac muscle has a supply of oxygen and glucose, it will keep contracting. Cardiac muscle is striated. You can just about see it on this picture. There are better pictures in your topic book as well, but we've got these like lines through. That's the striations. So more striated, more than smooth, but less than skeletal muscle. So skeletal muscle is much more organized striations. The cardiac muscle, which we spoke about in semester 1, are the muscle cells are branched and interconnected. So if we look at the light microscope picture, you can see that the cells are branching through to each other. And this is because in the heart, we want to have rapid and synchronized contraction, because we want the parts of the heart to contract at the same time, so the atria, then the ventricles. And that works because of these interactions that we have. The interconnections, if you remember, are called intercalated discs. And not only do they allow rapid impulses to spread through the cardiac muscle, they're also really strong. And we spoke about how these cells in the heart, we do not want the cells to break apart. It's okay, the muscle in your legs, skeletal muscle breaking apart, you really don't want your cardiac muscle to break apart. So the intercalated discs that hold together cardiac muscles are very, very, very strong. And in terms of speed of conduction, they are the intermediate speed of conduction compared to the other types, so the smooth and the skeletal, and intermediate in terms of the length of contraction. And you've got a comparison table in your topic book to annotate and add to your own notes. The last type of muscle to talk about is the skeletal muscle. This is involved in movement, definitely striated, and we'll look at lots of pictures of the striations in our future videos and what these striations mean. We have voluntary control, so you can decide to move your arm, so you have control over your skeletal muscles in your arm. Lovely regular arrangement, which is related to the striations, and it's so all the muscle cells contract in the same direction. So you want the muscles in your arm to all contract in the same direction so that your arm bends. And we'll talk about this more in a future video. Rapid contraction, so more rapid than skeletal and cardiac, but for a short amount of time. And we will be focusing on skeletal muscle when we're talking about how muscles contract in the sliding filament theory. Muscles work by contracting, and muscles pull only, so they not push. So that's a really key idea. They don't push a bone, they pull a bone. So in order to move a bone, we actually need a pair of muscles. And we call a pair of muscles moving a bone an antagonistic pair. And the classic example to think about is the biceps and the triceps in your arm. So if we look at this picture here, this one's the biceps at the front, and at the back is the triceps. So they work together to bring about movement. So when the arm is bending, like in the image on the left, what we have is the bicep contracts, and hopefully you can see the muscle has got shorter and fatter. The tricep doesn't push, it relaxes, like that. And then to straighten the arm, what happens is the opposite. So in this example here, we will have the bicep will relax, and the tricep will contract, and that'll bring about straightening of the arm. Another way that you might see it is using the term flexor and extensor. So in this example, the bicep is a flexor muscle, and it's flexor because it's a muscle that causes a bend or causes flex. So it causes the elbow joint to bend. The extensor is the muscle that straightens a limb. So the triceps is the extensor muscle in this antagonistic pair. So you might see this extensor and flexor language as well. One last thing to remember is that muscle is not connected straight to bone. So you've got the muscle is connected to the bone. So muscle goes to tendon and then goes to bone. So when you've got the bicep contracting, for example, it pulls on the tendon that pulls on the bone to bring about the bending of the elbow. So remember that as well from our previous video. So this is an antagonistic pair of muscles to bring about movement in a limb, so to bend a joint. So this is like your knee, your elbow, for example. But many of the movements in our body are caused by many muscles working together. So synergistic muscles are many muscles working together. So the classic example are facial expressions. So smiling and frowning, you've got many muscles working together to bring about that facial expression. In our next video, we are going to talk more about the specific structure of skeletal muscle. Thank you.